welcome Leroy Chiao, a former NASA astronaut and the International Space Station commander, Mikhail Kornienko, Russian cosmonaut, and Chief Executive Officer of Kaspersky, Eugene Kaspersky. Yep. Wow. This is our session. Gentlemen, welcome to the SAS stage. As said, a really unique opportunity for us. So we're gonna ask you a couple of questions because I believe that many people here are really curious about this space exploration because so far they've been exploring cyberspace. So let's know what's going on beyond the Earth, guys. But before we start, may I ask you, how many missions did you take? How many times have you been in space?
Sure. So my first 3 missions were aboard space shuttles, and then on my 4th mission, I trained with Misha and the cosmonaut team, and we flew on a Soyuz TMA-5 to the space station, where I served as the commander for about 190 days. So all told, about 229 days.
Wow. Mikhail, what about you?
I have 2 space missions. First one was in 2010, duration 176, half a year, and second one 2015, 2016, 340 days, practically a year. It was first long duration flight on board the space station, MKS I mean. Total 516 days. 2 spacewalk.
Yeah.
2 spacewalk.
Can you imagine that? And I know they have a lot of work to do. Do you have weekends in the space? Do you have weekends? Do you have 3 days?
Beacons.
Weekends.
Weekend. Yeah, we do. Actually, once you're aboard the space station, it's almost like a normal work week. So Monday through Friday, you're very busy. Weekends a little bit lighter, but you're just like here. You're catching up on things on the weekends. So
okay, good.
Yeah.
Great. And they have about 16 turns a day. So you have 16 Saturdays and 16 Sundays.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I've heard that after staying so a long time in the space, there's no gravity, you don't walk, so the skin on your feet become very soft. So when you get back to the ground, the other guys, they come to you to scratch your heels.
It's really a problem on board the station because we have to scratch our... You ask a question.
Then my another question is, how do you communicate? Because I've heard that because you need to have a ventilation because there is no gravity. So the atmosphere doesn't circulate itself. So you need to have a ventilation. So all the time you are in the earplugs, working the earplugs. And how do you communicate?
We just talk louder. but yeah, so we it is very loud in the space station, so we have to wear the earplugs or we would have permanent hearing damage. And so, but we are able to communicate and speak, just have to speak a little louder. But if you're curious, we actually speak both English and Russian. Of course, we all do. We all learn to speak both languages.
Cool. I have more questions. They're not couple.
Of
No,
course.
because I'm very curious about space. Well, actually, I did enjoy zero gravity twice. The flight. It's in a Russian Space Center. And actually, you can rent it. So when you're in Moscow, but you have to book it before. It's a few hours flight, and it has a 10 hills. So 10 times for 25 seconds zero gravity. It's really, really, really impressive. But my next question is, what was the most impressive for you staying in the space?
Usual questions. It's most difficult question. Usual and most difficult. I don't know. All the flight it's difficult. Maybe spacewalk EVA, because it's dangerous. Страшно как?
Scary.
Scared, is scared, and difficult physically because you walk 7 hours and duration space suit is rigid, and it's like a work in a gym 7 hours. You can imagine.
So these people, they are so cool that they don't know word scare.
No, it's scary.
Yeah,
It's normal.
I agree, because I heard from colleague of you, I've heard that the most impressive is working outside, and it's aurora light down there on the Earth. That was, I don't remember the name of the astronaut or cosmonaut.
Aurora at 100 kilometers, we fly in 400 kilometers, 300.
Yeah, so it's somewhere there. And
Right.
they said it's very impressive. How many times did you see aliens?
We looked very hard. Actually, seriously, in space you see strange things, and certainly on my missions I did see some strange things, but they were later explained by the experts as, usually it's human phenomenon or some natural phenomenon.
And my last question about non-cyber. In a space station, in a space, there is no top and bottom because no gravity. I'm really curious. What about the orientation of the International Space Station? Does it fly as a plane around the Earth, or this stays the same, doing like this, or it's just random? I don't know, but I don't know.
Of course, you are right. Absolutely, there is a zero gravity, and you have условный, как назвать, a floor, because station goes around the Earth. It's a floor. Seals above, and
so the floor is directed to the Earth.
Directly to the Earth. But
yeah, but all spacecraft, you can change the reference frame. So as Misha said, normally we're flying what we call LVLH, local vertical, local horizontal, so it follows the Earth.
It's like this.
But we can also fly inertial, where
So
it just depends on the need.
You can manage that.
Well, yeah, but the control center decides, because they have to consider the heating from the sun. They have to consider the radiators' positions and the solar panels, for optimal, exposure to the sun.
Yeah, and going back to cyber, actually, the International Space Station is one of the most expensive cyber gadgets they're human created. I think that the most expensive is not International Space Station. It's in Geneva, the collider.
Yeah, the Large Hadron Collider.
It's also cyber. It's 100% cyber, and this is the most expensive. And I believe, I think that the International Space Station is the second most expensive gadget, and flying. I have a question, sir, about the cybersecurity first. How many times did you incidents with the cybersecurity? Did you have the malware? I know you did. The first report about the computer virus incident, it was published somewhere in 2006 or 2007. But how often do you have the incidents with the cyber?
Well, during my mission, we did not have any issues, but of course we have the safeguards, encryption. Of course, the commanding, you can imagine, from the ground to the spacecraft is critical, and if a hacker gained access to that, they could literally destroy the space station, by sending malware or mal commands. So.
And of course, you do use it to well, actually, there's I see the three layers of cyber on International Space Station. First of all, it's a personal. Second is to do your work, and International Space Station as the SCADA system, as physical system. So the three layers of the cyber. So speaking about the first layer, you communicate with the ground. I've heard you bought a car from the space.
you know about it. It's fantastic.
I have friends in Russian Space Center.
yeah.
There are no secrets. I just sent an email to my friends in the Space Center, and I said, okay, I have this panel. So, do you have anything interesting information about these guys to ask them? And they just replied me. There's no secrets.
You're absolutely right. First level safety on the workstation. It's a crew. ability to work together. It's teamwork, as we said, yeah. And we train to be work together a long time in Earth. 1 year and a half in a backup crew, 1 year and a half in a prime crew. So we're ready to work together in space after that.
But a good example of what you're talking about, this was not a malware or a cybersecurity issue, but it gives you an example. Early on when we were building the International Space Station and we added the Canadian arm, well, there was a bug in the ARM software and it dragged all the computers in the station down and they all crashed. And so we lost control of the station for a little while until the control center could reboot everything and fix the problem.
These guys, they don't know the word scare. Can you imagine that your systems are offline, they don't work in the space or down there under the water? Crazy. Okay, so I asked too many questions. So Katya, do you have some?
No, they're really great. So I really wonder about this cybersecurity instance. But at the same time, I wanted to know what is the key to successful space mission? How would you describe it?
Well, it's training, first of all. You know, the training is very serious. Like Misha said, first you train first as a backup crew member, and then you start training for your mission. So before your first space station mission, you're training 3.5 years, for example, probably, at a minimum. And so that prepares you for what you're going to do and then how to respond if things are different, and in emergencies too, of course, how to respond. So it makes everything in, second nature.
Yes, to become an astronaut or cosmonaut, you need to have 3.5 or 4 years trainings. That's true, because you know to know everything. You can operate with everything. And do you remember IP addresses of International Space Station components? I've heard after some time being there, they remember IP addresses.
You are professional.
Almost. Well,
10 years passed. Eugene. 10 years passed. What IP addresses?
But when you
maybe Leroy remember.
Yeah, but no. Well,
but when you were on the mission,
they were written down.
being in the space, did you remember the IP addresses of some critical components?
No, there is special department in Houston, special department in Missile Control Center in Moscow, in Korolev. It's their responsibility.
So there are no IT staff in the space.
Well, certainly not like in this room. Yeah, we're not experts.
Okay, but do you have mobile phones in the space?
It's useless. It's useless in space. 400 kilometers. No.
Okay.
I was going to say, but we during my mission we had an experiment, a Russian experiment, and they took a satellite phone, a Globalstar phone, repackaged it. And then during our EVA, Salajan Sharipov launched it into space, and it successfully contacted the satellite and was able to demonstrate that we could use a satellite phone from ISS, from MKS.
Cool.
No, I didn't know.
So you have internet to communicate, and you can call. So the International Space Station has IP address, so it's hackable. Yes?
Yeah, sure. Theoretically, yeah. But
Theoretically?
Yeah, sure.
So, which operating system do you use on board? Oh, well, there are 3 different layers. So, of course, for personal, that could be Mac, could be Windows, but I'm pretty sure, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that the SCADA system runs Linux.
Well, okay, so when I was there, which was a while ago, but we had all the laptops were Lenovo, IBM Lenovo. And that network was not critical. That was, you could do the IP phone to call down, you could do this, that, you get your schedule, but it was not critical. The computers that run the station are completely separate. So they were very primitive, as you can imagine. They're the same computers, they're 386-based processor computers that run the station. And we actually had to use very, very old IBM laptops to be able to communicate the 386, but it's a completely separate system than the laptop system. So the critical system is commanded encrypted.
But disconnected.
Yeah, disconnected from the the laptop network.
did you have any security audit or penetration test on the space station to be sure that it's really disconnected? But you said that the IT staff is on the ground in Houston, so they can manage that. So
Right.
it is connected.
Yes, yes, very much so. It's all, yeah, encrypted, commanding up, and data flow down. On both sides, on both the US side and the Russian side.
That can be serious, right? So did I get it right that it's NASA responsible for ensuring security in the station?
So NASA is responsible for ensuring the IT security of the US operating segment, and Russia is, of course, responsible for the Russian segment. Right? But the two sides are connected, too. The computers, you know, they can, well, let's see, the computers aren't actually physically connected, but the control centers are in coordination so that if we need something done on the Russian side, then their control center will command it, and then the US side will send the commands in sync.
Got it. So it seems like you are separated in the station, the systems are separated, also the American one, the Russian one. Do you meet in the middle? Do you visit each other? How is it going on there?
My cabin 2 times was in American segment. I sleep in American cabin, my private, and there is no close place for crew on station. Also open. It's free places.
But we used to
For all
joke.
of us.
We used to joke between the Russians and the American segment. We used to joke that we have a checkpoint, you know, like during Cold War, you know.
But I guess you celebrate birthdays together?
Yeah, all holidays,
Yes.
sure.
Christmas,
Holidays.
New Year?
Sure. Yeah.
Christmas, birthday of crew members,
all together.
and, absolutely, yeah.
Do you have drinks?
Not officially.
Not officially.
So they are spacemen, they're humans. If they want to bring some not allowed, non-legal on the board, they do. I
Провокация.
don't ask how.
From
I know how they do it, but they do.
By FedEx.
Yeah, from the very beginning, yeah, from decades ago started.
Eugene, let's maybe check if there are questions from the audience. Yes, please, we have here.
Oh,
Can you help us with the
A
mic,
lot of-
please? A lot of questions, of course. Let's start by one, please.
Coming with a microphone.
Hello, just a quick question. I'm from Kazakhstan, and a place called Jeskazgan. Usually astronauts land on that place. Have you visited Jeskazgan? Have you landed on Jeskazgan?
Let's see. So we launched, of course, from Baikonur, and when we came back, my mission, we landed near Arkelik. Maybe that's the same place. Yeah. So we were based. The recovery forces were based in Arkelik, and then went to the landing site. Yeah. And you too, I'm sure.
same story, absolutely. Thank you for your question.
Hello, my question is, how do astronauts prepare for potential cyber incidents, such as like unauthorized access to onboard systems or data breaches while on a mission?
We tell about this before. It's mission control center responsibility, but we can do something when mission control center send us some radiograms to prevent or to go through the incident. But we can have radiograms from the mission control center.
Yeah, they basically, you know, we are trained to recover the system, you know, if we have some kind of a crash, and we are trained to do the software updates that are sent to us, and you know, of course, then we're always in communication with the control centers to go through the steps. So, you know, we're not responsible for, you know, coming up with a solution, but we have been trained how to implement patches and things like that.
I'm pretty sure about cybersecurity for Russian segment because they are our customers.
Yes.
Not the same about American, sorry.
Well, I actually wanted to add here that a couple of years ago, our great experts, they conducted special lectures for cosmonauts at the training center in Zvyozdny. Even Leroy is aware of this city. And I think Yura Namesnikov is somewhere here in the audience. So he was the one who taught how to manage the, at least, personal cybersecurity. We still have time for additional questions, so if, yes, please.
Thank you. What's the most interesting experiment have you performed in the space station?
Most interesting experiment? For me, it was a telemedicine demonstration using ultrasound. And so with very little training, we were able to demonstrate that even non-experts like us, we were able to talk to a doctor on the ground and then be their hands to come up with diagnostic quality images of bones, teeth, organs, and we even did the first ocular exam using ultrasound from space. So that to me was a very interesting experiment.
Wow. Any other questions in the audience?
Some over here, maybe?
Yeah. Let's have one more, and I think the timing is running out.
Hi, thank you again. I was wondering if you guys have like separate backup communication channels in case the main one breaks. So that's something should be interesting.
Yeah, so we do. We like on the American segment, we have 2 space-to-ground S-band channels for voice, and then we also have a backup UHF channel. And of course, on the Russian side, they also have a main S-band channel and then a UHF, right? I think at least 2 lines, 3 lines on the Russian segment.
2.
2, yeah. So we have multiple lines.
Mm-hmm. And were there any like particular incidents where one communication channel failed and you actually had to use the backup one?
No, during my long mission, we didn't have any issues with the comm system, but we're trained to be able to switch, and if we had to.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Last question from me, maybe. So, gentlemen, do you want to fly one more time to space?
I want.
And maybe you will be there.
May I start?
Of course.
Unfortunately, I had a plan to be a tourist, but I didn't pass the medical commission twice. So that's not my story.
Well, when you told me this story, you told us the story last night when we met, I felt bad for you, and so I hope that changes, and I brought a gift for you. This is a Kosmический карандаш. That's a real space pen. We actually really do use these in space.
Thank you.
But, I have flown long-duration flight. Misha has flown 2. I've flown on space shuttle missions, which are about 2 weeks in duration each. So I've spent a lot of time in orbit, and so I wouldn't, every time you fly, you think more about the risk that you're taking and why you're doing it. And so I probably wouldn't fly back to orbit, but I would love a chance to go to the moon.
Same story, absolutely. It should be some interesting for me, not orbital flight, maybe long duration flight, more than 1 year, or moon flight, orbital moon. And yesterday we talked with Eugene about space flight, about his ability to fly. I can say I passed medical tests. I couldn't pass 7 years. I passed medical tests. You have a lot of time to pass the medical.
Okay, thank you all for such a. I guess it was interesting, yes, to hear the true information from this real people which don't know the word scare.
And thus tradition, to have a drink, this is not an exception.
May I add one more comment? Actually, that's now it's geopolitically bad time, but the space is a good example how their nations can communicate even in the times of the geopolitical turbulence, call it in this way. And I believe that the world will turn to better soon. And there is a lot of space to cooperate between West and East, North and South, with a different culture, different nations. So crossing fingers that it comes soon.
Agree. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.